Well, you can tell how ill-prepared I was to sit in for the chair today. So before we get to council time, we have a work session. My apologies to Public Works. And I think we've already switched over, so go ahead and please begin.
Good morning. Good morning, Council. I'm Ken Lader, Public Works Director, and I am just going to do some brief introductions. And today with me, I brought along Steve Gallup. I wanted to introduce him. He's over here to our right. Steve started with us last month as our Transportation Division Manager, so we're excited to have him on board with our program. Ultimately, what we're going to be discussing today would exist within his group. So Steve's along for the ride today. He and I will be available for questions, but Gary's going to do most of the heavy lifting. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Gary Albrecht, and he'll introduce our consultant team and get started.
Thank you, Ken. Good morning, Council. Ken mentioned Gary Albrecht, Transportation Planning with Community Planning. We had a work session in March of 2022 to provide an update on this program, but we're coming back today to provide additional information about the program to help continue guidance on how to continue moving forward. Developing a neighborhood traffic management program was placed on Community Planning's and Public Works work program. Over the last 20 years, Clark County staff has limited ability to resolve neighborhood traffic resident concerns. Can you move to slide 2, please? I'm presenting a brief background about this program, and we'll turn the presentation over to Judith and Matt, both consultants from PBS. They have done the majority of the work today on this program. The goal of this work session is to provide an update of how the program could work for our residents. We understand right now that there is no budget to set aside for a new program, and the timing to move forward with a council hearing could occur later this year. Next slide, please. We really want a system that is fair and equitable across the entire county, that is data-driven, engages neighborhood residents through associations with a fundable program to identify, prioritize, and implement feasible traffic management solutions annually. I will turn the presentation over to Judith Perez now. You should be on the line, okay.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Good morning.
Yes, go ahead, Judith.
I'm not able to start my video. I'm not sure if that is something that you guys want me to do, but it says that somebody needs to do it for me. Otherwise, I can just do it without video. It's up to you.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's not something that we can do in the room for you, so I think we'll have to proceed without the camera today.
Okay, sounds good. Next slide, please. Thank you, Gary. Good morning, Chair Bowerman and council members. So throughout the year, Clark County staff receives concern from residents about neighborhood traffic safety issues. These concerns include limited sight distance, on-street parking, pedestrian and bicycle safety, and excessive speeding, to name a few. Currently, Clark County staff does not have the procedures to manage and quickly respond to these concerns. Hence, the development of a neighborhood traffic management program for Clark County was added to the Transportation Planning Program and budget. The development of this program is intended to supplement and formalize current county practices. The 3 NTMP concepts developed as part of this effort provide a mechanism for residents to work with county staff in the identification and selection of traffic management on common strategies and tools to address the county residents' concerns. Next slide, please. The NTMP concepts we developed consist of 4 basic stages: residents' request, evaluation, engagement, and implementation. Each stage focuses on specific tasks and concludes with the implementation of a traffic management strategy. In the next couple minutes, I will walk you through the processes of the Clark County NTMP program developed. In your meeting package, you will find copies of the proposed forms developed to implement this program. Next slide, please. Step 1, residents' request. During this step, residents or neighborhood associations will submit a request for action addressing their concerns. County staff will work with the neighborhood in defining the problem and study area, which may be a specific intersection or a much larger area, such as a neighborhood. The size of the study will depend on the extent of the traffic-related concern and should include any street that could serve as an alternative route. The criteria will be developed based on eligible streets, roadway classification, pedestrian and bicycle access, reported crashes, vehicular speed and volumes, emergency response impacts, parking, and maintenance needs. As part of the resident request stage, once a year, county staff will provide the Neighborhood Association Council of Clark County, NACCC, an overview of the Neighborhood Traffic Management Program, the NTMP webpage, and the application process. So let's talk about the milestones of this stage. The process is initiated when a resident or a neighborhood association submits a neighborhood traffic concern request online, by phone, or by visiting in person at Clark County Public Service Center using the NTMP request form. Next slide, please. The NTMP request form will be made available on the NTMP webpage via Neighborhood Association newsletter and at county buildings. Clark County staff will use the information provided on this form to investigate the concern raised by the resident. In their review, county staff will gather pertinent traffic data and will conduct an initial desktop assessment of the identified issues or concerns in order to determine if it should be considered as part of this NTMP process. Next slide, please. So using the results of this initial desktop analysis and the project eligibility worksheet, staff will determine if the identified concern can be reasonably addressed on the proposed roadway. Once its initial review is completed, the requester will be contacted and notified of the findings, including an explanation of the next steps. And during this meeting, staff could discuss the issue described in the NTMP request form, the findings of the initial data collection and evaluation, and also the results of the project eligibility worksheet. Next slide, please. The second step is evaluation. Using the NTMP toolkit as guidance, a list of potential neighborhood traffic management strategies will be compiled by county staff to address the traffic concerns identified by the proponent. Once a list of potential strategies have been prepared, county staff will solicit feedback from other Clark County departments and also emergency service providers that might be affected by the implementation of the potential strategy. Next slide, please. After gathering input from the key agencies and departments, staff will score eligible projects and complete the NTMP prioritization worksheet. Projects will be scored with each category based on the following factors: traffic speed, average daily traffic volumes, reported crash history, pedestrian facilities, bike infrastructure, parks, schools or transit stops, pedestrian destinations, for example, high-density housing, libraries, or community centers, and also equity. The top candidate projects are further evaluated at the project site by county staff. Next slide, please. Step 3 will be the engagement. Once projects have been scored, staff will post a list of projects that meet the criteria on the NTMP webpage. They will publish a list on the County Neighborhood Association newsletter and notify those neighborhoods whose projects are moving forward on this year's program. Staff then will reach out to pertinent neighborhood associations and residents so they can inform neighbors near the project site regarding the proposal. This step will greatly assist county staff to inform and include residents in the development of solutions. The level of engagement between county staff and the neighborhood association or project proponent will vary depending on the concept selected. Under all three concepts, the project proponent and the neighborhood association leadership will be asked to keep the neighbors informed of the submitted concerns and also of the traffic management strategies or tools being proposed by county staff. In addition, the NTMP request form will be provided in multiple language to ensure inclusivity. Given the limited budget proposed for the bronze concept, residents' engagements will be limited to conversations via the neighborhood association leadership and or the NACCC. On the other hand, a more robust, comprehensive outreach process is being proposed for the silver and or golden concepts. This could entail county staff conducting a question and answer project-related session at a neighborhood association meeting. Next slide, please. Projects will then be prioritized annually based on the scoring. Results and project ranking will be shared during an NACCC meeting posted on the NTMP webpage and shared with the requester via email. Next slide, please. Step 4, implementation. After sharing the results with the requester, county staff will present the prioritized list of projects to County Council. County staff will then propose the County Council considers approving the list based upon available funding and direct the county engineer to design, engineer, and install the traffic management strategies based upon sound engineering practice and generally accepted standards. After approval, implementation of the project will be scheduled and added to the Transportation Improvement Program. Next, Matt will go over a cost comparison between the concepts and discuss the various tools and strategies included under each concept. Thank you. Matt?
Thanks, Judith. First, we'd like to review what the county's current practice is. The county currently has a customer service request base that receives all types of requests from residents. The requests are logged into the database and assigned to the appropriate departments to be addressed and responded to. The traffic-related requests are assigned to the traffic engineers for evaluation. And currently, there is no standalone neighborhood traffic management program website that residents can go to get traffic management information or to make traffic management requests. The county is currently limited to doing small projects that include gathering traffic data, installing signs, pavement markings, installing radar speed limit signs for short durations, or requesting additional enforcement. And there is no funding that allows for medium or larger traffic management programs, at least currently. We estimate that existing work requires approximately 0.35 FTEs. And with the small projects that are currently being funded out of the traffic operations budget, the total cost is currently about $90,000. Now, with the bronze program, it would add 1 FTE. This person would manage the neighborhood traffic management program requests. There would be a devoted website for the NTMP that would give the residents information on what it is and what is available to them as for possible solutions. It would outline the process that their requests go through and also give them a contact person that they could contact and ask questions of. The projects would still be small projects, limited to projects similar to what the county is currently doing, but there would be a scoring and ranking and tracking of the requests in the county website to inform the residents of the program and give them direction. The estimated cost of the bronze is $208,000. This also includes $40,000 that would be devoted just for small projects. The silver program would have 2 full-time FTEs that would manage the requests and develop the projects. There would be the devoted website for the NTMP, just like in the bronze program. The silver has everything in bronze, but with a larger budget, it includes medium-sized projects. With the larger budget, it would be additional projects that could be scored and ranked. This would require additional outreach to the neighborhood associations, getting input from the residents on the upcoming projects. The estimated cost of the silver would be $500,000, and this includes $250,000 devoted for small and medium-sized projects. So now let's look at the gold. This would have 2.25 full-time FTEs. It would include everything from the bronze and the silver programs, with the ability to make larger improvement projects because of the increased budget. It would allow the county to take on more projects and larger projects for traffic calming and bike and ped improvements. You can see this project has a higher cost, about $1 million, with $750,000 that would be used for improvement projects. Next slide, please. These few slides show a high-level view of what the tools are available to be used for the different programs. We use dollar signs on the right side to indicate low, medium, and high costs. The box identify tools that fall into the bronze program. The round symbols identify tools that are added with the silver program. And the diamonds are symbols identifying even more tools that could be added with the gold program. With that, I'd like to show you some of these slides, give you an idea of some of the tools that are out there that could be used. Next slide, please. As you see in this slide, that we start to see mostly silver and gold options. And as you can see, the costs go up with all of those. So next slide, please. And as you can see with this one, most all of these are gold options that are more costly and would require a higher budget. And if you have any questions on these, please let me know and I'll address them after the presentation. And with that, I'll turn this over to Gary for our closing.
Thanks, Matt. Can you move to the next slide, please? So our consultant has demonstrated that there are additional program options available to better serve our residents living in neighborhoods. Current program funding does not support transportation improvements on local access roads, as those programs focus on collector and arterial classified roads, which are regional in nature. One of the 3 NTMP concepts staff recommends the silver concept because it offers low traffic management tools and are responsive to neighborhood residents needs by providing low-cost system improvements that are currently not available. The recommended silver program could add additional tools from the gold concept as time and money allow additional tools to support managing neighborhood traffic. Next slide, please. So Clark County staff periodically receives concerns from residents about neighborhood traffic safety issues. These concerns include limited sight distance, on-street parking, pedestrian and bicyclist safety, and excessive speeding, to name a few. In fact, we received a complaint last week about cut-through traffic on Northeast 82nd Street, which is directly above Luke Gentian Sports Complex. Developing a neighborhood traffic management program provides a mechanism for residents to work with county staff in the identification and selection of traffic management and calming strategies. and tools to address the county's residents' concerns. Staff seeks council support and direction to create a silver concept neighborhood management program traffic. That's a mouthful. I said that backwards. I apologize. Neighborhood traffic management program. Okay, next slide, please. And that is it. And I just want to thank you for your time and letting us come talk to you about this possibility of creating a program. And we're able to answer any questions.
Just comment and question, unless, I know you're looking for guidance today on whether to support this, but, so here's once over the world from me. One, I don't like the idea of gold, silver. I mean, I feel like I've just sat through a sales pitch. And a lot of these things we're doing already. And I can see the request for 2.25 people to implement a further program. But I'm looking for most bang for the buck, and I know some of this we're doing already. I would like, if you have identified a project that needs to occur, and if it's above a certain threshold dollar amount that the county manager can't approve or the public works director can't approve on their own, then I would like it to come before council instead of having $1 million plus that's going to say, hey, we're going to include some large projects. I don't like to manage our money that way. And I know we have representatives in the room now from the Sheriff's Department. I mean, I want to put money where it's going to work, and quite frankly, my perspective is this. Washington State Highway Patrol is grossly understaffed. Every city department is struggling to fill its ranks, as well as our Sheriff's Department. Traffic enforcement is like way down there. And until we have traffic enforcement, most of these measures will be just wasted money. I'm sorry, because people will avoid traffic calming devices or ignore them. I just don't see much good bang for the buck. And on top of all of that, if the public doesn't realize, you know, law enforcement is severely restricted. You know, you used to be able to pull someone over for a loud muffler, which we get a lot of complaints about, you know, when they're modified and exceeding decibel levels that the federal government requires and for manufacturers and individual state. You know, other defective equipment. I mean, we used to stop vehicles for violations and then find other crimes by coincidence are being committed. You know, in some contexts, people pejoratively call them pretext stops, and they're not. They're stops for legitimate public safety reasons that just happen to undercover other crimes. But now the police can't even chase somebody or pull, you know, once they pull them over, if they pull over, they're severely restricted, which kind of, when you have a low priority for traffic enforcement, law enforcement basically prioritizes why bother. And we've heard complaints about, you know, excessive speeding, reckless driving, traffic infractions occurring right in front of different law enforcement agencies with nothing happening. So the law has swung so far to put handcuffs on our law enforcement's abilities to enforce our traffic laws. So, you know, I'm more concerned about those issues and reform that needs to happen at the state level, and then filling our ranks of all law enforcement, and especially our priority is our sheriff's office, right behind jail services. So anyway, I'm not real excited about what you've presented here today, and just as a presenting tip, you know, just putting whole pages as a slide doesn't help your presentation much. I mean, I've got the handout here. There you go. So, other comments or more importantly, questions by council?
Yes, thanks. Actually, I was excited to see this presentation. I get a number of calls and emails from people, and I don't see it so much as a law enforcement issue, but as having service accessible to the public when they have a concern, and that there can be cost-effective small improvements that can do a great deal to improve public safety. And, you know, I was curious what the public can do right now when they have a concern about something, because I believe there is like a hazardous roads or dangerous roads that link that people can report a problem.
There is, yeah. There is a link online, and we also have a number that they can call into that our customer service folks out at operations respond to.
Right, and what is like the turnaround when somebody reports something? When do they get a response?
I don't have the exact data, but my word to staff and encouragement has been to respond at least initially within 24 hours, which I think we do, and that's at least to make sure that the constituent has received a response, at least, not necessarily to the issue, but to know that they've received the concern.
Right.
Generally, it's within 2 to 3 days, because some of the complaints come to me and I forward them to the traffic department. And we specifically talk about the complaint that came in on Northeast 82nd. I mean, it's a great reason why we need the program, because right now we really don't have anything to offer except other than we can put in the speed radar.
Right. I have another example for you. That's 179th and Northwest 10th. There was a stop sign that was put in, some months ago, but I think even just striping or, you know, so people aren't used to, and you can see a lot of skid marks where people are slamming on the brakes. And I think that could be, you know, if there was a lighted stop sign, striping would go a long ways, and I can't think that would be really very expensive, but it's a safety concern. I have another couple of emails that, I don't know, I guess, Ken, do I forward them to you at this point?
You can, and I'll make sure that they get to that customer service mailbox, so.
Great. But I think this is, you know, I've just heard a lot from people about the roads, and I think that having some small budget for small improvements would be really helpful, and making it more accessible to the public to know where to report problems would go a long way to public safety.
I did have a question in line of that, and I meant to actually ask a question instead of just stand on my soapbox. But when someone calls 311 or 911, because something's happening right now, obviously that's usually a futile attempt because the person's long gone before law enforcement ever comes. But when someone calls 311 or 911, does it get linked to your portal in some way, either with a telephone number, or, I mean, is there something we can do to link those calls to, hey, here's at least direct them to?
Yeah. So, Councilor Medvedi, not typically unless there is some, you know, emergency hazard. So, for instance, if a tree was down on a power line, that would come back through to us, and then in that case, we'd probably reach out to CPU to get their crews, you know, to make sure that it's.
Yeah, maybe you misunderstood me. You know,
yeah,
someone
sorry.
calls, hey, there's someone speeding through my little residential neighborhood now. Instead of saying, directly going to your webpage and saying, hey, we need a speed bump, we need a traffic calming, we need some attention here. But they call 311 or 911 instead. And of course, the next thing is they send us an email. Why aren't you guys doing anything about this? So is there any linkage? I mean, does the operator even have a script to say, send your complaint here?
That's a great question. Gary, I don't know.
I don't believe it currently exists like that. It is possible to get some better coordination between the Sheriff's Department and our Public Works traffic engineering program.
And I know we share data on incidents, but I don't think it's real time like that, so.
Other questions or comments?
I have a question, Councilor Medvedi.
Well, let me go with Glenn. He hit his button first.
Okay, thank you. I actually have several questions and comments here. So this would be in addition to. So this would not be taking funding from any other fund or program that we currently have. This is asking for new new funding, is that correct?
This would be new budget for our ongoing programs, yeah. So kind of back to what we were talking about, it's not the arterial level, but really the local access in neighborhoods.
Okay, great, thank you. So first of all, I really do appreciate this presentation, and I'm a big neighborhood advocate, and I'm happy to hear that, you know, neighborhoods are going to be able to be more involved in some of the projects that take place. But I would like to touch on equity a bit on this. I think it's critical in transportation funding projects and things that we choose to do, and how we prioritize those dollars. And specifically with equity, it's people's ability to stay alive and not be injured on our streets. So I would want to focus, whenever we choose a project, if there's a place that we know where people are dying or people are getting hit, and, you know, there's a known issue there, that we focus those first, you know, without question. And then if there's areas that we know, wow, that is like, we know just by looking at it, that is just an accident waiting to happen, that we focus on those. And then we kind of go more towards the ones that are tended to coming from complaints, like really, you know, high speeds and things like that. I mean, they can result in a death, obviously, but there are some intersections, some places, and there are schools that need crosswalks. There are schools that need sidewalks, and all of those things. So I would prefer to focus on those issues to meet children and people's right, or, you know, their ability to stay alive should be the biggest focus on that. One thing I would like to explore, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with like choosing between a bronze and a gold, because I don't really quite comprehend exactly what that means. I know you've done a good job, I think, of kind of explaining it, but the one chart that you give us with the dollar figures, you know, for instance, like going from silver to gold only means a quarter FTE difference. So you know, so when you make that increase from silver to gold, the vast majority of your extra funding that you're providing is going directly to the projects, you know, as opposed to infrastructure to be able to deliver those projects. So some of those, I'd like to be able to understand, I think, a little bit better the efficiency and kind of like the point of, you know, where you're starting investing more money and you're losing on your receipts. Well, I can't think of the term of that right now, but you know what I'm saying on there. And the other thing that just came to me, and this would be something that we would have to work with the sheriff's office on, but I do agree with Councilor Medvegi that there is a lack of enforcement, and it is a driving factor behind a lot of the traffic problems that we're having. I think we tend to, most of us, it just takes seeing somebody pulled over that just puts it back into our head. Oh, you know, we look down, what speed are we going? You know, because some streets are designed such that that natural speed is actually higher than the speed limit, you know, just kind of the width of the road and things like that. So we tend to forget. Some of those things are good for reminders, like the trailers and stuff like that, but I think enforcement is extra. Nobody wants to get pulled over. And I'd love to see, I'm sure we have some cruisers sitting around, since we're shy on deputies. I'd love to see them just parked somewhere with unmanned, because we don't have the people to, you know, to drive them, but just having them there in the streets in some of those problem areas, I think, would be effective at getting people to slow down and start conscientiously looking at how they're driving, their patterns and stuff. So I would love to see that. I am supportive of a program to this, but I do want to make sure that, back to equity as well, these types of programs, especially when you look at, you know, there's this big long form to fill out and you have to go to a website and things like that. The neighborhoods that are the most stressed and most impacted when you look at equity are the least likely to fill these forms out. So I would like to see some sort of a mechanism to make sure that underrepresented neighborhoods are still getting projects that they desperately need. So those are my comments. Thank you for bringing this forward. I appreciate it.
Michelle?
My question is about the neighborhood associations. I know that was mentioned that that the county will be communicating with some of those neighborhood associations, but not all of them are active. Some are inactive. What would be the plan in communicating with the neighborhoods that don't have active neighborhood association chapters and meetings?
Councilor Belcott, that's a great question. And does anybody on staff, have we talked about that as part of this process or your report, Judith or Matt? For those inactive neighborhood associations?
From my consultant, experience working with other neighborhood associations is just very labor intensive because, you know, the neighborhood associations in Clark County are large in geographic. So it will mean that staff will have to somehow reach out to them, whether it's through a post note or you know, door to door. You know, we have had in different others transportation projects to do that before. But I don't know at the staff level what Clark County is doing to get those neighborhood associations to the pre-COVID times where they were all active.
Okay,
And
yeah,
that's something, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Ken. I'm just a little concerned about that because we've gotten a lot of constituent feedback with projects not being communicated from the county, like the different billboards that have been in various places around the county. Like if you call the number on the billboard, it doesn't go to anybody. That's why I'm just wondering what the plan is because I just want to make sure that everybody knows that the county is being communicative with our communities.
Thank you. And what I was going to add is I can follow up with Marilee a little bit on the inactive neighborhood associations and also your comments on our billboard number, just to double check what we're publishing out there. I know there certainly is a difference between what we do on our capital projects versus what a developer might be doing as part of those, but we certainly have our inspectors plugged into that and can follow up on that concern.
All right, thank you, Ken.
So I'm assuming the chair still hasn't signed in. I haven't seen her. So we still have our council time to do. We have a long agenda. I would just say, you know, I think we probably all want this program. We all support it, but I would lose the bronze, silver, gold salesmanship here and get more into specifics. I don't know that I'm supportive right now of adding any FTE. I want to have that justified a little bit better, and maybe that comes in a one-on-one with you and the manager. Or deputy manager, however you think, but I don't know the need right now beyond our existing resources. And again, my comments before about law enforcement, I'd rather invest my dollars into law enforcement, and, you know, whatever we need to rebuild the Sheriff's Department traffic unit and get them operating robustly everywhere. Anyway, what is the other council, what do you want to give it direction?
Well, I think there definitely is a need, and I don't know what how many questions come to you. Obviously, you've seen that there is a need. That's why we're looking at this report right now. I do think that there, you know, I think we need maybe some more information come to us with a specific budget and outcomes, and that I very much think that there's some cost-effective fixes that can occur, and that this needs to be a program that's very accessible to the public to chime in when there is a problem. And I would just echo, I agree with the equity issues that some communities, some neighborhoods are a lot more organized than others, and they often get what they need and others don't. So I'd like to, I guess, see this move forward in the most cost-effective way.
Further comments, Glenn? And Michelle, any further comments? Otherwise, what I'm hearing is we just need more information, more specifics before we proceed further on your budget request.
So let's get a summary, and then we'll work with staff and get it back on council time for consideration with the comments that were made today and the questions about specifics and what the dollar amounts would equate to for the FTE. So we'll get that back in front of council.
Yeah, and just, if you don't mind, if you can speak to the need, the kind of the types of issues that are coming at you, and how frequently, and all of that would be good to understand the need a little better.
And one other bit that's kind of related to that, and I've seen it in different budgets. Okay, well, what are we spending now on these small projects? We already know of large projects out there. So is there a proposal, well, we need $100,000 roughly per year to do small projects? And can we just give the manager the authority to approve that, or 50? I'm just throwing numbers out. Or to you, small projects, 25,000, 50,000. Here's what historically we've done. This is what we need to do. Here's our budget for that amount of projects. Aside from whether or not you really need more FTE. I mean, I think that's a separate question.
And I think what we tie into is the traffic infrastructure that we have. So that's something in Public Works that we've been looking at to identify. It's a point that we need to expand on. So I think if we tie in the questions and comments today with also what the traffic infrastructure looks like as far in the county, so we have some better understanding what the background of that is.
Just one last real quick comment. One thing that we might consider too is figuring out a kind of a smaller number that we could start with, and we could from there start to develop the need, and you could report to us and say, look, these are the kinds of requests that we're getting in, and this is how important we see them being. This is our funding level currently. We are achieving everything that we are thinking we need to do, or we aren't, so we can kind of evaluate before we bump up the program. Just an option.
All right, super. We're going to go ahead and conclude the work session. We're going to take a slightly less than 10-minute break. We'll resume at 10:30 with our council time. And Mara, would you like to come back and talk with me? Or maybe Amber can show you where the restrooms.
I will. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.